You are listening to Additional Crew Film Review with Nick Meyer and Andrew Gomez. These spoiler-heavy reviews are meant for entertainment purposes only. Please do not attempt anything said on this show at home. Now sit back, relax, and listen to these two dinguses talk about a movie. Enjoy! Tell him you make the blood flow by squeezing Additional Crew with your elbow. What's up? Welcome to Additional Crew. We've got your two hosts here. I'm, of course, Nick, and with me I got Andrew. What's up, Andrew?
What's up, Nick? Hello, listeners.
Hello. So today we are talking about a mute makeup artist working on a slasher movie being shot in Moscow. They are locked in a studio after hours. While there, they witness a brutal murder and must escape capture. We're, of course, talking about the 1995 film Mute Witness, directed by Anthony Waller and also written by Anthony Waller. But we'll get into that part a little bit later,
And
as we normally
produced
do.
by Anthony Waller.
Yeah, Anthony Waller. And, of course, immediately I just keep thinking about Darren Waller every time I say it. But that's neither here nor there. So this week, in this pod in particular, prior to shooting it, we actually went to Las Vegas.
We did.
Fun little trip. We had a good time. You have anything you want to share in particular about Las Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, for myself and kind of Nick, just because he was forcefully made to listen to Playboi Carti's new album. But that was my soundtrack for my Vegas trip. It literally dropped the day that we were on our way to Vegas. And I was like, oh shit, this is perfect.
Okay, so that was brand new. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that was a brand new album. And I was listening to the first time that weekend. And I was like, oh shit, this is the perfect type of music to listen to when you're just there to party. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. We partied hard. Bought a bottle that I didn't end up finishing. I just left it in the room. I just said, you know what? I can't take this home. I might as well just give it to the next person who cleans the room.
I hope they enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Fun weekend of debauchery, and Playboi Carti was a good soundtrack for it.
Yeah. I can kind of talk about Playboi Carti's album because I'll be the first to tell you that I was not a fan of Playboi Carti in the beginning, and I guess now I can consider myself a fan just because I over here talking about him and listening to his music, and have been listening to his music since Whole Lotta Red, and I was familiar with his stuff in Dialect, but I didn't really enjoy that project, and I didn't really enjoy Whole Lotta Red when I first listened to it. I think way back in the day, I was in Discord with you, Nick, and a couple of our other friends, and I was just mad trashing Whole Lotta Red because I didn't get it, and I'll tell you right now, I was mistaken. I understand what this music is going for, what the audience is trying to, who it's being made for, is expected to experience. Um, I was just caught off guard and listening to this album uh, with too critical of a mindset. You gotta let go. You gotta let things go. Things are gonna sound funny and weird, and Playboi Carti's music, and um, I don't know. You can kind of maybe give me some feedback on what you experienced when you were listening to music for the first time.
Yeah, so I didn't know it was Playboi Carti, and I haven't heard anything else by Playboi Carti really, besides like maybe a random video here and there. I thought pretty much what you're saying. It's pretty good. Like little structure here is that it is fun music to kind of debauch to, right? Like go do some debauchery, have a good time out there. Don't worry about like the rest of it, because the lyrics, I think I have to assume that they are meant to be humorful,
Yeah,
humorous even.
yeah. Because if you're going into this thinking you're gonna get some lyrical miracle whip of lines, you're in the wrong spot because there's literally a moment in the album. you wouldn't be able to understand it without sometimes the lyrics in front of you. But there's a moment where Future, who is a feature on this album, is saying, "Don't do chicken shit, don't do cow shit. On charge them hoes a fee." And then
Yeah.
later in the songs, he'll repeat that because it's the hook. But then later he says, "Don't do dog shit." And like these are things that people don't normally say in hip hop albums, but it's just there is a wave of sound in this album that's going to be hard for older generations to fully understand the ethos of the album. But basically, it's just rage music that is made to kind of like play in the background or just party hard and have fun doing it. Because listening to this album is kind of a hard listen to decipher between who's rapping when Future appears on the album because Playboi Carti sounds a lot like Future, and for you, I'm sure it doesn't even pay too much mind because it all kind of sounds the same for you probably when it comes to that. But like,
Hmm.
there's a certain sound that like each person's voice has, and Playboi Carti does Future's voice sometimes too good to where I can't tell when it's not him and when it is him. And Future being on the album kind of makes things a little more confusing too. So that's why I'm just um, sometimes thrown off on what I'm listening to and who's actually rapping. But this album is 30 tracks long, and
Yeah.
you would think it's like going to be like a 2 hour long project. No, a lot of these are just like bite sized songs like that are under 3 minutes, a majority of them, and some even under two. Uh, Again, um, the thing to take away from this album is the production, and I really have to shout out some of the producers on this because they do a fantastic job on orchestrating a chaotic sounding album, but still making it cohesive and like enjoyable for the most part. Because people say it's like um, not overproduced, but like when something sounds like low budget, like underproduced, I guess, or like it just sounds like I don't know.
I mean, I've heard the terminology, the whole genre, like lo-fi.
Yeah, but there, I think what I'm trying to say is like something like mastering, like it sounds kind of like like rushed. But I don't. I again, I'm not saying that. I know people have said that. I don't get that experience, or I don't get that sound. It just it feeds if that's the case. I feel like it just feeds into more of the punk aesthetic because being punk means you're not refined. Like this isn't supposed to be a tuned album. It's supposed to be a kind of rough around the edges sounding album, and that's kind of been Cardi's ethos in this. And his producers, Filthy, um, who's who works with the we're working on Dying Collective.
Hmm.
He has Wheezy on some of these tracks, Opium Baby, Cardo, and I don't know how to say this guy's name, OG Voletta, and even a surprise producer track with Travis Scott. Like I'm not sure how in depth he went on the song Crush and what producer credits he's responsible for, but I mean he's getting some big names to produce because Travis Scott kind of made his name off being a producer, and he kind of like went the route of like what Kanye did, is like started as a producer and wanted to be a rapper, and that's kind of like what Travis Scott's trajectory was. So it's cool to see him go back to being a producer on a track like Crush. Um, yeah, I can talk about this album for a bit. I won't go too much further. I'm just gonna shout out some standout tracks. Like Pop Out is a crazy way to start an album. It's kind of like it reminds you, it takes you back to a whole lot of red, just like the abrasive, like immediate sounding effect of just chaos. It sounds like you're in a robot's kneecap while it's moving and smashing up buildings across a whole land of towers. It's pretty. chaotic in the beginning of the album, but it doesn't. It gets easier as you go through the project, and I'm speaking solely on the project. I know people have said a lot of bad things about Playboi Carti. I don't know it. Like I do know a lot about his character, and I don't condone what he's done in his life, But I'm trying to separate that, personal lifestyle of his, and separate that from the music. And yeah, the music is something worth listening to if you get past that fact. But I definitely understand like this music is not made for everyone. This music is strictly for like if you're just out there ready to do some rambunctious type shit. And
it
um,
it, it also like seems to like laugh in the face of seriousness, right? So like
yeah,
if you want seriousness from this, that's the last place you're gonna find it. You're gonna hate it. Almost on its face, you're gonna hate it.
yeah, for
And
sure.
I think that like it gains some like level of confidence from that fact. Just like, hey, you know what? You want to like dive into this and like really dissect it. You're gonna hate it, and we know that, and so therefore we can do whatever we want with it.
Yeah,
Um,
this album has something that might find interest with whatever you're listening to at the current moment, but I definitely recommend giving this one a shot if you're into some crazy type shit that day and just like, you know what, let me give this shit a listen. Go check out the songs Pop Out, Crank, Charge Them Hoes a Fee, Good Credit, Trim, Opium Baby, and Like Wheezy. Like those are some solid tracks on the album, and with some great features that I won't spoil. I think it's worth checking out though. So I'll leave it at that. I'm not gonna give it a score, but if I had to, it's gonna be like a 7 or 8. But that's where it's at right now.
sick. Um, that was some music I was going to talk about here. I'm kind of looking at two different albums that like hit me, and I was thinking about this in particular because I talk a lot about post punk, right? And the reason I talk a lot about post punk is because I think personally it's like this gigantic umbrella term that doesn't really mean anything anymore. And these two albums stood out to me really strongly, and it's because they're both considered both post punk. They're both very recent, and they both have completely different sounds. And I think they're both fantastic albums for different reasons. So the first one I'm going to mention is a album Mock Media 2, and that is by the group Mock Media. And this one came out in November 2024. I hadn't heard about it. They're a Canadian group. Um, and this is 10 songs, about 40 minutes, so pretty standard like timing. But it's very much like the Clash sounding vocals, but with a lot of world music behind it. And it's just a sound that I haven't heard in a long time. And when I listen to this album, it's shockingly well produced, shockingly well made, and it almost feels like a time capsule. Like if you want to hear something cool, go check out Lewis Won't Break or Get on the Ship from this album. I enjoy both of them very much. Now this doesn't have very many listeners. I came across it just I think it was one like part of the Spotify algorithm. You see it on there and you're like, okay, I'll check it out, and it hit for me really strong. Now I bring that one up and I go through it very quickly just because one, I think it's worth checking out and almost no one has. Two, because the second album came out March 28th, so the day before we're recording this,
Mm-hmm.
and it's by an artist named Sam Akpro, and the album is called Evenfall. Evenfall is also considered post punk, same umbrella, and just eons away in sound. It is just so different. It is post punk, but also R&B and also jazz with like a little slight sprinkling of hip hop in there, just very light.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a wonderful album. And it's super chill, super laid back. Um, I would like listen to the first two tracks on this album. I Can't See the Sun and Death by Entertainment, and I think you'll get like the vibe, and then it kind of just goes out from there. It's got a little bit more hard edged on the lyrics, but the sound itself is pretty chill. And I loved it. And just like listening to these back to back, which is how I discovered them. First two fantastic albums that I was like, wow, these are both amazing. And then it's shocking that they're both considered the same genre at all because they could not be more different in sound. One of them does definitely have its punk roots with the Clash, and I'm talking about Mock Media here. And then the other one is so R&B, but just with like random interspersing of saxophone, like the
Mm-hmm.
contortions, or like a little bit of jazz going on in the background with some like more upbeat electronic drums going on. And just so good though also, and I'm pointing this out here because it has almost no plays as well, and it deserves some. I think this guy's got like 36,000 monthly listeners, which isn't terrible, but it's not particularly a lot either.
Yeah.
And this is one of his first full length albums, and it hit right. It is a sound that I don't hear very often.
Yeah.
Very unique. It just came out yesterday. I've listened to it like 1.5 times, so I don't really feel super confident giving it a score. Um, I would be thinking around like 8.5 for that one.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it on the first listens. We'll see if it sticks. For Mock Media, I'm pretty strong on that one. That's a strong 8. Like I feel like that one's pretty darn good. I've listened to it a few times through. My only complaint is that sometimes the singer does sound a little bit too much like I think it's Joe Strummer who sang for the Clash. If not, it was Mick something. I don't remember, and I don't know the Clash well enough to differentiate between their two singers.
Mm-hmm.
The Clash isn't a band that I ever really got into, but
Yeah.
this particular album was phenomenal, and it just comes out in a time and a place where it's like, where did this come from? What scene does this belong to? Like out of nowhere, you have this album that's got like full on world music breaks halfway through, and it just sits and feels so good, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. We're not talking about like 7 minute long songs. We're talking about like everyone's 3.5 minutes. They're not like wasting your time with these breaks, and they fit so well. Um, just a phenomenal album, both of these. So again, Mock Media 2 from November 2024. That is by a group named Mock Media, and then Even Fall by an artist Sam Akpro that came out March 28th, 2025. Both well deserving of your listens. I think if you're interested in post punk, interested in R&B, check out Sam Akpro. If you like the more classic rock punk sound, check out Mock Media. If you think both of those sound good, check out both of them. I don't know. But yeah, so I just wanted to bring those two up.
Yeah. It's kind of touching back on the whole Clash comparison. I haven't listened to the Clash all that much myself, but there
Mhm.
have been songs that have stuck out outside of like the well-known singles. Uh, I recently, I say recently, like but like 6 months ago, I listened to "Lost in the Supermarket" for the first time by the Clash. That's a really good song. If you want to start off somewhere and get a good, I don't know, I wouldn't say a good feel for the Clash, but like it sounds something different from what I'm normally used to listening to with the Clash with the singles, and those are great songs. I'm sure that people have really really fond memories of listening to those songs, but it's hard to like hear those songs and not get kind of tired of them because they are overplayed. So it was nice and refreshing to hear "Lost in the Supermarket" by the Clash because it's like, oh, this is how the Clash can sound, like outside of like London Calling and a couple other ones that come to mind.
Yeah, I had the issue with the Clash, and I'm sure that a lot of people around my age had this similar issue. Is that I listened to London Calling a lot, but I could only ever find like the remastered versions, which have like 20 tracks, and like it just breaks down halfway through. So this is before streaming was huge. It was like all CDs, and it's not easy to tell where the album starts and ends because all of a sudden you're in these like remastered extra versions of these songs. And it's like, okay, that's not as good as what I was hearing before, but it mars down the whole album because you're not hearing it in its intended version the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't I don't really know like a ton about the Clash. I listened to London Calling. I listened to Combat Rock. I couldn't tell you my favorite songs because again, this is like CD time when I was burning them, and I didn't find anything that like was bad, but I also didn't find anything that really made me go like, I should devote hours upon hours to listen to all their albums. My kid really does love Rock the Casbah still, so I hear that like pretty often.
That is a good song.
It is
But that's one of those overplayed songs that like you
for
get
sure.
tired of. But
I have a question for anyone who may know. Um, that like it's not a cell phone ringtone that happens in that song. It's got to be just like some weird alarm clock. But the do 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 do. Why was that included in the song? At first, I thought it was cool, but it really bugs me that it's out of time with the rest of the music. And yes, this is because my kids listen to it so often that I've sat there and every time that part comes on, I just like I just die a little bit, you know. Um. So you had a movie you wanted to talk about before we get into our main movie. Why don't you hit us up with this?
oh yeah, um, I rewatched Clueless, and I say rewatch because I think I've seen it before, but I don't recall. So maybe this is my first time watching it. But I definitely had seen parts of the film in the past and tidbits, and I finally decided to just check it out and sit with it. And it is a really quintessential '90s film. Like it's like a time capsule film that if you were to sit someone down and say, "Hey, this is what the '90s were like," I feel like you can show them Clueless, and it'll have an accurate portrayal of the '90s. And the movie is very bright. Everyone has awesome outfits for the '90s and very stylish for that matter too. Like it's a very posh area. I forget what city specifically, but I think it's the greater LA region. So it's like it takes place in LA, and so all you see is like backdrops of you know ritz and glamour, Rodeo Drive, that type of like scene. So
I
it,
think it's Beverly Hills. I think they
oh,
do
okay,
mention
Beverly
it.
Hills. Yeah, I think you're right. And so you're just taken to this world that few of us get to watch sometimes. The life of the rich and famous, and not to say that we're following a famous person, but the the main lead in the movie. Wow, I'm drawing a blank on her name, but uh, something Silverstone,
Yeah,
Alicia
Sarah
Silverstone,
Silverstone. I think maybe it's not Sarah. That's Silver.
Silverstone as Shara Horowitz. She does a fantastic job being a a bratty, uppity type protagonist in this film, and she sells it very well. She's hilarious. All her lines land. Um, Brittany Murphy's. Um, I think this was her breakout role. I can't tell. I can't recall, but I know this was a lot of people's first time seeing Brittany Murphy on screen, and it she does an amazing job as well as playing the new kid Ty, and then Stacy Dash as Dion, um, Cher's best friend, is just top notch comedy when they're together, and some of the lines they say to each other is just so stellar, so funny, so it is it is the original Mean Girls essentially, and so giving that type of background and if this type of movie sounds something like that piques your interest, I definitely think you should watch it. It's a very funny film that has very quotable lines in the movie, and um, the story is a bit weird when you get down to it because of the way it ends and kind of like that like Paul Rudd playing Josh, the stepbrother, and Alicia Silverstone's character Cher kind of what seems to be like they're hooking up, but they're not related, but they're stepbrothers and sisters. So that's a kind of a unusual storyline to follow. They don't go too deep on that, but it's definitely it's, it's definitely different. And outside of that, I think this movie has some very funny moments, and this is one of those great comedies that I like to revisit every now and then. It's funny. I would want to revisit, I should say. It's really funny, and I'm giving this one like a 9 out of 10.
So
It's a
that's
solid
great.
film for me.
Have
A
you
lot of comedy.
ever seen Heather's?
Yeah, I like that one a lot too.
Okay,
It's
I
not as
said
funny to me as this one. I think Clueless is funnier than Heather's, but Heather's is a great film as well.
I've never actually watched Heather's. I have watched Clueless a couple times, but Heather's is the one I always heard of, like predating Clueless in the same genre. But I don't know, which is kind of like my follow up.
Yeah, I like a teen high school drama that has some comedy aspect.
It's got prime Christian Slater, you know.
Yeah,
No, 9 out of 10. That's good. I mean, you can't hate on Clueless. I don't know a single person who's told me that like they dislike Clueless. Clueless is a fantastic film. It's just funny, and like the people in it all the way through, just fantastic actors, especially comedy actors. I always love seeing Jeremy Sisto in anything after watching 6 Feet Under.
Jeremy
Um,
Sisto, who's that?
yeah, and I don't remember his name in the movie. But Jeremy Sisto's in it, and
Okay,
if you look him up, you'll recognize him.
yeah.
In 6 Feet Under, he plays a crazy character. I think literally, and he's so phenomenal in it that every time I see him in anything else, I can't help imagine that that's his future from that. Anyway, this is
Oh
neither here nor there.
dang, that is
This,
such a trip to see him in this because I didn't even realize that that's who you're referring to. Because like, yeah, for those listening, Jeremy Sisto is in Clueless. He plays um, Elton, which is like kind of like the crush that kind of falls Cher around. He's one of the crushes. So
and just Jeremy Sisto is in so many terrible movies that like unless you watch bad horror movies, you probably don't see him super often. But
yeah,
6 Feet Under is one of the best TV shows I've ever watched, and I will stand by that. And his role in it is wonderful.
is he play a long-standing role or is it like he's throughout the whole series, or he's kind of like a one season type character?
He's a long standing role. I don't
Okay.
know that he's throughout the whole series. I'm trying to remember the exact plot. It's been a minute, but he has a long standing role, and he's a very consequential role as well. He gets a lot of change and moving. Okay, cool. So that's a 9 out of 10 for Clueless. That's sick. So I also saw a movie, just one this time, and it was Assault on Precinct 13. That's the John Carpenter film from 1976, not the remake from 2005.
Oh,
My
not this one's not Lawrence Fish, the one with Lawrence
n-
Fishburne.
no, not this one. I've never seen that one. I eventually will watch it, but I was so mad that they remade that movie because it doesn't make sense. Um, but yeah, so my local art house is doing all of the John Carpenter films, so you'll probably likely hear more about those, listeners.
Okay,
And this is the second. I missed Dark Star, unfortunately, due to traveling. Assault on Precinct 13 is like the most basic movie that you can make at this point. So like you have a bunch of gang members trying to take over a police precinct in night, and it's a police precinct that's pretty much abandoned because it's closing. It has a setup where a father gets his daughter gets killed while shopping in an ice cream truck, and then he goes and he kills a gang member. So the gang member then tries to kill him, and he is inside the police precinct. It is so simple. It is so low budget feeling, and yet this movie is probably one of the few movies where I point you to say, if you don't think John Carpenter is a good director, watch Assault on Precinct 13. It has none of the elements that should make a good movie, and yet you come out of it, and it is so good. It is the most basic film. It's basically zombies as gang members shooting through windows and shooting through doors. A cop and two cons and like some ladies who work at the police station. I don't know if they're police. One of them's not. One of them's definitely a secretary, but the other one might be police. Have to hold them off with limited rounds and absolutely nothing else. And they do it. And this movie alone proves to me that a good director can make any one liner work because all of the one liners in this movie hit every
oh
single
wow.
one. Uh, and it's by like this. I don't want to call him a no-name actor. His name's Darwin Jostin. He plays Napoleon in this film,
Hmm.
and he looks familiar to me because he's been in a couple David Lynch movies and a couple John Carpenter movies. As we talked about in Inland Empire, two of my favorite three directors. So I've seen his face, but he's in pretty much nothing else. Not a well-known guy. The main actor, Austin Stoker, he's been in a ton of movies, but nothing that I would say is super popular. And then you have no one else.
Hmm.
A script that is so bare bones, and yet the tension exists, the humor exists. The only negative I can say to this film is that you could tell they needed more money for a little bit more lighting because it's a dark
Um,
movie. And other than that, you got the John Carpenter score, which is classic. It's one of my favorite scores of his.
the
And
non
it's one of
film.
his, for the film. Um, and John Carpenter does his own music for a lot of movies, and this one is like so good. It's got this like little jazzy bluesy breakdown every time something sad is happening on the screen, and then the overture every time something cool is happening on the screen, and it works so well.
Yeah.
But as far as like movies go, Napoleon and Ethan in this film have the best buddy buddy duality that I've seen almost in any movie, and it's because one is a cop and one is a guy who's going to death row. And yet the guy who's going to death row has better morals than almost anyone else in this film.
That's crazy. Sounds like the
Um,
Green Mile.
well, except for they're just getting sieged by zombie-like gang members the whole entire time. We were breaking through windows and shooting out things and killing everyone who steps outside.
Yeah. Aside
Most
from that.
basic film. It was a fantastic watch in theaters. I had never done that before, and
Oh wow. Okay.
shout out to the guy who laughed really hard when the little girl got killed, because that was probably the most awkward moment of the whole film. Was the little girl gets shot, and it's not a funny scene, and this guy
Yeah.
just cracks up. He just starts cracking up so hard, and
Dude,
it's like, whoa.
I don't know. Yeah, I've experienced certain types of moments like that in theaters, and it's like, why now? Like, I feel like that happened in Long Legs for me.
Right? Someone in the theater's like, this is the funny part, and like, it's like this movie had a lot of funny parts, but this guy like was rolling over laughing, and no one else in the theater's laughing. So you know what? Shout out to that guy, because you got to keep him happy, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, 8.5 to 9. It would
Yeah.
be an easy 9 if there was more lighting during almost all the scenes.
All right. Yeah, you sold me on this one. This one sounds worth a watch, and I check it out. And you're still waiting to find out how the other one, the remake, is.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. I don't know. I love Lawrence Fishburne, so I should probably watch the remake. But I remember at the time that it came out, I was 14, right? And then when I actually knew what was Assaults on Precinct 13 was, I was like, why did they remake this movie? This movie does not need to be remade. It was great how it was, and it doesn't have any of the things that say it should be better than it is.
Except the lighting. Maybe the lighting got better.
They're like, I'm sure this movie is like rife for a lot of like, you could insert a lot of politics in it, and this movie doesn't like necessarily have it. Other than one of the great lines where he's like, "Oh no, I've been wished luck by 2 cops. That means I'm for sure gonna die." Um, Again, watch it. Like this is just this film. Watching it again because it's been a minute since I watched the last. Just proves to me that a good director can make any one-liner work. It's all about timing.
For sure. Yes, I would agree with that. Because
Yeah,
we've seen it time and time again when a one liner does not land, it really sets the pace of the movie off.
100%. You're like, this is supposed to be funny, and it's not.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So you'll be hearing, everyone will be hearing more about John Carpenter because our goal is to try to hit every one of these movies while we're in town.
oh
There's a
shit,
lot of
okay.
them. So with that said, I don't think you have anything else, right?
No, we can move on.
All right, so let's move on. So today we are talking about the 1995 film Mute Witness. Once again, it is a mute makeup artist that gets stuck in the studio after hours, and while there, they witness a brutal murder, and they have to escape capture. This is a film directed by Anthony Waller, written by Anthony Waller. Anthony Waller is, of course, ultra famous. He directed American Werewolf in Paris, and you didn't mishear me. I did not say American Werewolf in London. I said American Werewolf in Paris. And then a movie called The Piper. That's what stuck out to me, and I don't know The Piper at all.
Nope.
Um,
Yeah, when you had told me we're gonna watch this film, I'm like, who the hell is Anthony Waller? And I'm still like, who the hell is Anthony Waller after this? Like,
I mean, so like Anthony Waller, I don't think got this movie by his credentials. I could say actually for sure he did not get this movie by his credentials. However, what's really cool is that the Arrow Blu-ray because they did a re-release of this in 2024 on Blu-ray. And that's actually what made me choose this movie is that I saw this on the shelves and I had like flashbacks to being like 5 years old or 4 years old and seeing it in Blockbuster. And I
Really?
remember
You saw
how
this one?
I didn't watch. No, I didn't view the movie. I saw the
No. You
box.
saw that this movie was like you were familiar with this movie from back then?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so this poster scared the shit out of me as a kid. And if you're wondering what poster, it is the poster of her face and her lips are sewn together for the word mute.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that and it just scared the crap out of me. Now, I was 5, so
Yeah.
like I couldn't tell you why it scared the crap out of me, but I did remember. And as soon as I saw the picture on the shelves of the Barnes and Noble when I was in there,
Mm. Is
I
that
fucking stopped and I was like, "What the fuck?"
the memories are flooding back? The horror.
Exactly. And so that's why I chose the movie, right? So it was something as simple as that. I'm like, okay, I'm old enough now. I can actually watch this movie. I think I have to. And then I looked it up on IMDb, and it's got a pretty good rating, 6.7 out of 10 for listeners. Um, but so Anthony Waller, he made a snuff movie, is what it was called. That was his teaser to the studios to get this movie made, and it was explaining what a snuff film is, and then explaining the plot of his potential movie. And I'll be honest with you, I can understand how he got this movie made because that snuff film teaser that he sent to people was very compelling.
Oh, did they show that in the DVD or the Blu-ray edition?
They included that, and I was really happy they included that because again, I was also like, well, how did Anthony Waller get this made? Like they actually flew out to Moscow to make this movie. They didn't just pretend to be in Moscow; they were in
Oh,
Moscow.
they were actually in Moscow.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually did crash into the Red Square with their car.
Yeah, so that's why that shot's huge, just because like you're not supposed to do that, dude.
Yeah.
Um, yes, they actually went to Moscow. There's some good stories. If you want, look it up. Apparently, shooting in Moscow is not an easy thing to do, and was not an easy thing to do because people there don't necessarily want film studios there. But so we have this film, and it is a mute character is shooting a film within this in
She's not shooting the
Moscow.
film. She's helping with the film, right?
Yeah, she's the special effects artist. I think is
Yeah.
her role. And one thing that immediately popped out, like as soon as we started watching this, is that the character is mute and half the people are speaking Russian. I'm like, there's 2 levels of language in this just to make sure that you'll never actually feel comfortable with what's happening.
Is that what they're doing? Is that why they did that, you think?
That has to be, and it's clever to me because like a mute person can still hear and like comprehend, right? There's no issues there. So to make that confusion on what is being said and what is happening and that tension that comes with it, making this film shot in Russia suddenly made so much more sense. I was like, okay, so she can't speak, and they do use that as an important plot point, but she also can't understand what they're saying because they're speaking a different language.
Yeah.
And that I think that's a less important plot point, but it does come up a few different times. Um, so yeah, let's talk about this film. I think that the intro to this movie, when they're shooting the fake
The fake
death,
out. Yeah, the
yeah,
fake death scene.
reminded me so strongly of Wes Craven, and I mean that as like the best way. It gave me like huge like Scream vibes or the final Nightmare on Elm Street he did. I can't remember if that's a New Nightmare. Um, and I thought it was really entertaining and really clever shots that were going on, and it set a good tone for me. And I want to
Okay.
start there because that's the introduction.
Yeah,
Um,
the it freaked me out. I didn't realize um till maybe halfway into her crashing into everything. It's like, oh, this is either these guys are really sadistic killers and like to watch their prey uh, squirm as they try to survive and find a telephone, because I don't know what she was doing, and obviously the director didn't know why she was crashing into so many things, like making a huge scene after being stabbed multiple times. stabbed, quote unquote, because you know it's it's a fake out. It's not really happening. And I was like, where? What did Nick have me watch? Like, what is happening in this movie? From the jump, I was like, is this supposed to be taken serious, or am I supposed to be scared? Because at first I was kind of scared, and then I was like, oh, you kind of pulled the veil back, and now it's kind of like, oh, this is kind of silly because there's some silly things in this movie that don't feel like horror, and I'm like, I'm trying to wrap my head around why they were trying to like throw in comedy at times.
The film is listed as a dark comedy film.
Is that what it is?
Um,
Okay.
yeah, although I don't like personally, in my opinion, straight from the get, I don't think the comedy was particularly effective aside from that introduction. Because I did think it was funny when all of a sudden you had the third Russian sit down next to him as you're watching this person just like crash into things, and then it like pulls back a little bit, like, oh, there's the studio. I thought that was pretty clever and funny, but after that, I don't remember laughing very much during this film. Like, levity happened sometimes, and the director and his wife had some moments.
Oh yeah, with the whole like dumb like get the chair, like they're like arguing with one another while the guy
Mm-hmm.
who's there to murder them
Mm-hmm.
just sits
Mm-hmm.
back and like listens to them argue and bicker. That part didn't make sense to me either, because like, did he like he gets shot in the fucking head and does it like it didn't occur to him to like maybe run away from the Russian cops or whatever they were, because he just pointed at the door like they're in that room arguing.
Oh yeah, the Russian cops were in on it. They were also agents for the Reaper.
Okay, wasn't he an agent of the Reaper? Why did they kill him?
Assuming that they killed him just because he fucked up, he didn't do a good job. Because I think what I got is like earlier when this character, and I believe we were talking about Larson, Oleg Yankoski. This is his real name. I'm butchering that. I know I am.
Yeah, character following
Uh,
was hard. I didn't know what any of these characters' names were except Billy, Clark. I don't really Betty's sister's name or
yeah, I
Billy's
don't.
sister.
I don't. I think having a mute character just makes that happen a little bit because you're never going to hear the main character say their names.
Yeah,
But yeah, so he talks to the Reaper, and the Reaper says, "Hey, I pay you as long as it's done clean. It's important that it's done clean." And at this point, he had done it so unclean that I think the agents were just like, "All right, fuck you, you're done."
yeah.
So they shot him. Like, keep him out of this at this point. I guess that was also another source of funniness is when the downstairs neighbor came up because they were making so much noise and then saw them holding a gun, and of course he gets scared of the wrong people because they don't even know what the fuck they're doing.
Exactly, and he runs back to his room, and as he
Mm-hmm.
runs away, he's like wearing like Superman pajamas.
Yeah, yeah. So I did chuckle at that. So I lied to you about not laughing anywhere else.
Well, I'm
um,
surprised you didn't laugh when that guy got electrocuted in the bathtub. That was pretty laws, dude. Like his murder in the bathtub was pretty laws.
that
Like,
the
the
effects.
effects, the visual effects that they use to like highlight that he's being electrocuted in the bathtub is pretty ridiculous. If I
They they were very 80s quality effects going on there. And this movie was made in 1995, so they had the ability, but probably not the budget. I During that particular scene, I was actually so jazzed that she got him that way. I was actually pretty excited when she got him in the bathtub and then threw the hair
did she
thing
not
in there.
drain her bathtub water though? Like what the hell? It's kind of
Wasn't
gross.
she was in the bathtub when she
She
heard
was in the
something?
bathtub. She
Yeah.
got out. They showed like this unnecessary scene where she's naked, getting dressed. This I feel like the director just wanted to see this girl naked at all times, like the mute, because he was having her show her naked at some appropriate times for the context of the film, when she's trying to flash the peeping tom to get his attention.
Mm-hmm.
That shows reason to like show nudity, but her getting out of the bathtub just felt like I just want to see you naked type energy from the director.
And so Billy's character as a whole is like an interesting story behind how the actress was chosen for this. So this is not the original actress they went with, and I don't remember who the original actress was. I don't have that information all at the top of my fingers here, but Marina Zudina was a fill-in from Russia, and she didn't speak any English. And they said, you know what, it really doesn't matter because your character's mute. And I thought, side note, I think she did a very fantastic job for not being able to understand English of making that work. But you might be right about that. I mean, I don't know how the selection went after that, but I'm sure that that had something to do with it. Like, okay, I got 3 nuded scenes. Don't drag this movie down.
But just going back to like the whole bathtub, like she just left the water sitting in the bathtub. Just it worked out for her benefit because she couldn't, she wouldn't be able to electrocute that guy in the bathtub. That bathtub scene doesn't work. But like, that's not normal bathtub behavior? You don't just leave your bathtub full after you get out of the bathtub. It's kind of
I'll
gross.
uh I'll have like a bit of conjecture, and this is not. I almost positive this isn't really what, but she had a PTSD freak out in the bathtub, right? So maybe she wasn't doing her normal behavior.
She did have a PTSD freak out. She was reminiscing on the snuff film.
Yeah,
She
because she saw
it,
the ghost of that lady in the window, and she's like on the 4th floor or something. So that didn't happen.
and that seemed like a moment to where like I don't know, maybe in the movie theaters it would be scary, but from maybe because I had too much light going on in my room, it wasn't dark that I didn't get that whole scare effect, but that wasn't scary to me.
Yeah, so
Remotely.
what I'll say about the tone of this film is that I didn't go into this thinking horror so much as I went into it thinking thriller, and it's like when I think thriller, what I'm looking for is like, can you keep the tension, right? Like,
Okay.
can you keep tension? And I think that was one of those scenes where like it was getting a little relaxed, so that like keeps throwing it in where like there's still something wrong here,
Yeah.
and it keeps that
Okay.
tension. It's like even if it isn't scary, it's like it still keeps that like, hey, there's some bad shit in this film though. Even if she's like relaxing in her tub, it ain't over.
Yeah. Okay. With that kind of context in mind, that makes sense why they threw that in and tried to keep the tension high and keep it relevant to the storyline.
Yeah, because I can't imagine any other way they could have. I mean, I guess there's almost an infinite amount of other ways they could have kept the tension at that point. She could have got out in the beat, but that's neither here nor there. They went with that one probably because it was an easy shot to get from the bathtub. Um, so this, so we're following along. She gets trapped in this studio overnight because she had to go back to get a mask, right? And apparently, the security guard closes the doors very abruptly at whatever time it was that she was in there. And as far as I can tell, this is one of the few times when being mute mattered, and maybe the whole entire reason why they chose to make her mute was to make her getting stuck in the studio make sense. Because the security guard couldn't hear her because she couldn't shout at him to keep the door unlocked while she comes out real quick. And then as she's on the phone, she also can't communicate with the director or with anyone else. So this is one of my few things with this film is that like I've seen this movie Hush, and I don't know if you've heard of Hush.
No.
Hush is the opposite. So you have a main character who can't hear anything, and people break into her house. Right, so like the whole
Oh man.
entire tension is that they can make as much noise as they want. She's never going to be able to hear them. Whereas
Yeah.
here, the setup of being mute seems to only have negatives in one context, and that is it got her trapped in this place.
Yeah.
And because like other than that, I can't really think of strong reasons to have made her mute in this film. Like the computer scene on the phone, I guess that stopped the real cops from coming. The time where she was lying down in the bed of film, it's not a bed, I'm sorry, the dumpster of film,
Yeah.
and the guy was holding her hand down and almost got her sister to leave. that was another part. But then her sister didn't leave, so it was like that was a little bit of a wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
So that was my one of my big guffs with this film is that just her being mute. I don't think that it was overly necessary. I think they could have been clever and figured out a way around that.
Yeah, her muteness didn't really, yeah, add a layer of tension at times. Because the one time it did add a layer of tension was during the whole trapping of her on the dumpster of films. But then that was like you said, it was completely wasted because
Mm-hmm.
it didn't go anywhere. The scene didn't go anywhere. It didn't. Her sister didn't like leave her stranded with that person. And what's it called? The effects that they try to that they do in the editing or in the shot to kind of like make the scene more high stress and high tension with the close up of her sister's face was it just threw me off, man. Like I don't know when to take this movie serious or not sometimes because they'll do like a three shot close in on someone's face to kind of add a level of like, oh shit, something's happening effect.
I so here's what my inner monologue told me about those shots because they are hilarious. They're super funny. And I'm talking about we're talking about like the 3 tier zoom in, right? And it's not like a
Yeah.
straight zoom in. It is like zoom one,
Yep.
black screen, zoom two, black screen, zoom three.
Yeah.
And it was funny. I thought it was funny. I don't think they were attempting to be funny. Just it was a funny technique that they used. My only thought about that is that like they're trying to portray for a second the sort of impact that direct eye contact would have with someone in this moment. So like when the victim dies in the beginning and Billy's watching and it does that zoom in, right?
Yeah.
It's I think the idea is that her making direct eye contact and seeing that emotion was so intense that she knew that it was a real murder at that moment. And I think they're trying to draw attention to that, but I don't think that that was a particularly good method of it. And it was funny. It was hilarious. I think I wrote down on here intense eye zoom ins followed by huge blood sprays. It's just good humor, but like I don't think it was intended to be humor. It's I have a hard time like hating on the movie for it because it made me laugh and like it was an unintentional one, but it was goofy. There's some
Yeah.
goofy moments for sure.
Um, I honestly have would enjoy this movie more watching it again, knowing that I could see it as a comedy instead of a drama or suspense, and I
Mm-hmm.
can enjoy it more at that. Because for me, the drama, the thrill, the suspense in this movie did not keep my attention. Like I was getting bored throughout this film at times, but it was the absurd death scenes, the comical zoom ins on a face, and like the the rationality that some of these people, these characters, you know, what they do is just so ridiculous. Like I'm watching a bit of uh, Clark make his famous chili con Clark and failing at that and saying, "Nope, I guess we gotta get takeout."
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so goofy. It's like it's a goofy film. So like I feel better knowing that recommending this movie as a comedy and don't take this movie as a drama or thriller because I don't think it does a very good job at that, in my
See, and
opinion.
this is where we're gonna have the disagreement, and that's fine. The I liked the thriller. I thought they kept the tension going pretty well throughout the whole thing. I thought the pacing was actually pretty good on it. And it's not that it was like again, it wasn't scary. It was just that like each situation had a climax at the right time, right? So like for me, what I think of as tension is like this climb like it build up and release, right? And each one of these scenes had a strong build up, and then it would release at the right moment. It wouldn't keep you there for too long, and like so that's where you go through like the studio to witnessing the death to the elevator shafts to the coolest shot in my opinion in this movie, the hallway that they lengthen out through camera trickery. um
When
to getting outside, and then to the apartment complex, to the car scene, to the studio. They keep things moving, right? So that's where I think that this movie did a really good job at keeping the tension up, is it didn't let you sit on one thing for far too long. It was like, that happened, on to the next. We wrapped up that part. Let's go to the next thing. There's also an issue here. Wrap that up. Go to the next thing.
Okay. That's definitely a take, and I respect it.
uh,
I see your point of view on that, and yeah, I'll if I watch it again, I'll I'll look at it with with some new perspective for sure. But just again, off of first watch, it was just hard to see the drama and the suspense for myself.
yeah, and I do get that. Yeah, there's some parts where you have to like suspend your disbelief to also get into the thriller, like when Russian bad guy number one fake kills Russian bad guy Andy was his name. When they're proving that the knife is fake to the cops,
Yeah,
and he gets up and he goes and
worst way.
stabs the guy over and over again. And Andy is the director. Excuse me.
Yeah. Oh, I thought his name was Clark. Cause wait,
I think that's his last name.
okay.
So he gets up, he grabs the fake knife, and he stabs the director over and over again in front of the police
Which
inspector.
doesn't make any sense to do.
Why would the police inspector not just shoot him on the spot first?
Exactly. Like
It's,
what logic was he using in that moment? Like unless the cops were in on it too, and they were just faking it, and they were also acting.
which maybe, but I feel like those inspectors weren't, but
Yeah.
maybe. The one issue that I have with those inspectors is that they seem to be doing such a thorough job in looking over everything they ask for, right? But this movie set has an incinerator apparently in one of in the fucking bottom floor. No one goes and looks at the incinerator.
Well, no one also bothers to ask, like, hey, that person that you were making a film with, that woman, where is she? Just
Mm-hmm.
prove to
Oh,
us that
yeah,
she's
easy
alive.
peasy, right?
Yeah,
Like, okay, well, we didn't kill her. Great. Where is she?
exactly.
That's a gigantic plot hole. Also, like when the guy talks about taking out the trash and they go out to and it's just full of film reels, like that's again, someone should have been like, that's not even trash, bro. That's just film.
And then the just so we're on the kind of like on the same topic, it's kind of moving away from it, but just kind of talking about the cops themselves. They were weird cops. Like, who decides to open up the bag that is supposed to be blood, take uh, touch it on his fingers, and then lick it to see if it's actually real or fake?
Now, the only explanation I can come up with there is that they made a
They
point of
could
showing that they added the sugar.
for
But
sure, but like he was risking it really hard on that one. Like, dude, you might actually just lick blood.
and I'm pretty sure he did lick blood. I think that cop was in on it.
Oh,
Yeah, I think the main inspector wasn't, but I think the guy at the bottom of the elevator shaft was, and I think he did lick it. That's why he had that second where he's like, "It's good." And for people listening, I made a funny face and said it's good.
yeah.
But I think he was in on it, and I think that was actually like a tip off that this guy was in on it because he tasted it and he made a stank face, and then he's like, "Never mind, it's sweet, it's perfect, it's what you want it."
He may have just got AIDS from that.
Well, like um, if he wasn't on it, then I guess you're hoping, right?
That's like not the best way of testing for DNA. Is to
Not even close.
take a lick of fake or real blood.
Um, one there's one shot I have to talk about. One transition even. So after the security guard finds the incinerator, he opens it up and he sees the human skull in there. Right? He gets stabbed by or I wish I knew the name, Russian bad guy who did the killing,
Yeah, there's
and it has him do the stab motion. And as he's about to stab the guy, it cuts to the next scene where Clark, I believe, is cutting meat. And that transition was so brutal and gross and awesome at the same time because it was so benign. But it's like right as he's about to get stabbed, it cuts to him cutting into like a piece of beef.
Oh yeah,
I love that transition because I was like, that's a mean transition and it's funny also. It's like win win for
that
you.
that is a funny transition. I also didn't like the fact that like another dog died in this movie, and thankfully we didn't
Yeah.
see that
Hmm.
dog die. But like, dude, why? How do we keep falling to movies that find dead dogs in them?
We're watching 90s and 80s movies that are horror movies, man.
It's just
It's just
an easy kill in the
it
movie.
it gives you that emotional input into it. You know what I mean? Like this is before
True.
like we're like, hey, you can kill a dog. You actually are fucking evil. You know, and like
Yeah.
that's it's too easy. It's too simple. But like I think too simple back then was what they wanted. Um,
Roger Ebert said, and because I watched the trailer before I watched the film,
mhm.
just to give me an idea of what I was in store for. And he said this was a stylish story with a skillful use of horror techniques. What do you think he was trying to say with that?
I think the techniques themselves are actually like the film techniques. So like, let's say the hallway stretching that I talked about. Um, the the movie set looking so maze like from the overhead shot. Um, I have some other stuff in here. Those transitions, a lot of the like the pacing and lighting. So I don't think it was like a particular like hey, you're getting scared or like necessarily the vibes, but like literally techniques that are used to make the film look stylish. It's what gave me the Wes Craven sort of vibe. I think is that Wes Craven and Anthony Waller in this particular film probably would have got along pretty well, or what Anthony Waller might have known a lot of his techniques and was using them. Because that's what it felt like to me. Like some of the scenes, and not in scare factor, but just in technique, felt kind of like Nightmare on Elm Street esque, and that's a good feeling to give off. I felt that a couple different times, and I think I looked up a new nightmare, a final nightmare. Fuck, I wish I knew which one it was off the top of my head. A new nightmare, and that came out the year before, and that's the one that reminds me so much of this movie.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
it could be kind of almost like biting style, you know what I mean? Like he's stealing it a little bit, but
for sure.
um, and that's I think I have more shots that I would talk to you about, but I didn't write them down. So I think the style worked for me. I think the tension and the pacing worked for me. I don't think that you could have drawn it out much more. I do want to say there was two things that about this movie that I want to be critical of
Uh-huh.
pretty much throughout the whole film. It was the same for both of them. One, the music. I think the music sounded pretty off. It felt like it was a made for TV movie sort of soundtrack. I don't think they prioritized music very well on this. And I think a lot of like the cheesiness in this film comes from the music and the score.
And you know what? That you could be right. I wasn't paying too much attention to the music,
Mm-hmm.
but I can definitely maybe have subconsciously felt that, and that's why I wasn't getting too much of a suspenseful horror effect from the scenes because the music wasn't matching.
And music matters, and especially in
Yeah,
thriller and horror movies. Like
yeah.
unless like I was being pretty cognizant of the soundtrack, and I knew like pretty quick on that I was like, this is not it. This soundtrack's not it, and I think that might have helped me stay attached to the film, knowing that the
Hmm.
music was detrimental.
Yeah.
But if you're not, then I think it would definitely impact your feeling of this movie because it it almost brings it down like a whole budget level. The soundtrack, like it feels like a full on made for TV movie, just not great.
It
Um,
it was giving me like it was reminding me of watching Inferno again. I don't know why.
yeah, okay, okay. I was thinking the wrong Inferno. I was thinking of the one by Dan Brown, and I'm like, we didn't watch that. And then I remembered we actually did watch a better Inferno. Uh, and anyway, a little bit, yeah. And I think that maybe it is just the music. The other thing I think was like the monotone color scheme that they had. Like the color scheme in this film was terrible. and I think
Yeah,
I understand
everything's
why they
very
did it.
drab.
Very drab. It's too drab. Like I know that you're in Moscow and you're making this like darkish movie and everything is pretty dark, but like you're not conveying anything to me with your color scheme. And I that doesn't always hit me so hard, but in this film it hit me pretty hard because I was like, give me any colors other than the red door.
Yeah, nothing stood out. Like nothing stood out in this
Mm-hmm.
film as far as characters, costume design, or like set design. Like I was pretty bored watching everyone dressed the same, and just also being annoyed when I saw the film director and I think Andy, who you said earlier, Billy and Billy's sister at the restaurant, and Andy's in full blood makeup on his
Yeah,
shirt, and
yeah.
that's okay.
Mm-hmm. He's a film artist, man. You know, I it's just for me the thing with it is that like I think that there was a lot of cool stylized stuff happening here. I think there's actually like a lot of good shots that were going on. Like the director and the cinematographer actually impressed me a bit, but you had no color pop, and
No,
you needed a little bit, like at least a little bit. Make it interesting to see,
yeah,
because if you don't make it interesting to see, then I'm missing all these cool shots because I don't care enough.
yeah, to look at the screen and stare at something. Like I'm just looking at characters' faces sometimes, and maybe that's what they're trying to convey. Like we don't want to distract you too much on what people are wearing, but yeah, just make it interesting. Just something on screen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, film's such a visual media. You got to make it more visually appealing. And I mean, like you had cool shit in this. Like I don't think there was a lot of films made in Moscow, as far as I'm aware, and they have all these cool background like, and they do make use of the one time where they go into the Red Square and they show off everything, right?
Yeah,
But even that, it's just there's no colors in this film that really pop out. The only thing I can think of, even off the top of my head, is the red door. And the fact that I can think of something off the top of my head that's so benign means they needed to do it more often. Um, so I wanted to bring that up. That was one thing that I really, really wish was better. Um, Side note: Obi-Wan Kenobi as a snuff film uh, purveyor makes a lot of sense, and that was also Sir Alec Guinness's final film role.
what are we talking about?
The Reaper. That is the guy who played Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars movie.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was his last film that he did, and he didn't get paid for it. He decided to do it on his own. I assume he wanted the trip to Moscow, but I don't know that.
What the hell? I didn't even realize that, but I'm not too familiar with that universe of Star Wars and characters other than Mark Hamill
Mm-hmm.
and a few select others.
Yeah, I think Obi-Wan Kenobi, just through his voice. If you listen to his voice, you'll get it next time because he doesn't do a very good Russian accent. He just sounds like Obi-Wan Kenobi,
Okay,
but it, like into
he's
stuff
the
films though.
Reaper.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Okay,
Um, I had some questions on like how much Russian mobsters actually look like 40s or 20s and 30s American mobsters. Like, is there really are they really that similar? Because at a certain point, this film kind of like turns into like a neo noir 20s mobster movie,
is
and
that what
it's
you were getting from it? I
well,
was convinced
everyone.
that they were pretty Russian in this, just based off some of the like very off the costume design, especially like the main guy who's doing the first initial cat and mouse, his little knit cardigan or sweater vest he
Oh,
has.
that fucking that was it was sick. That guy's fucking outfit was great.
Yeah, I think his outfit was good in the whole, uh, as far as portraying an actual Russian director, quote unquote. I don't even know if he was actually a director because,
I don't know if he'd be recognized as one, but I think
yeah.
technically,
And I'm just watching the scene where she just gets fucking door blasted into the bed of film in the dumpsters or
dude,
the
I
film
can't
canister.
imagine that was a comfy fall.
dude, how she didn't like break her back in some shape or like hurt her back or like be strained in any way. Like that was at least a 10 foot fall,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't even ask about it later. Like she doesn't go to the hospital, nothing. She's like she's fine, but dude, she got blasted like 10 feet.
I wonder if like, and this is never being around film before. Like, do you think like if you fall into a whole bunch of empty cases of something, would that work? It
No,
doesn't seem to
it'll
like in
hurt.
my mind.
No, it'll hurt still, dude. She's falling on metal, unleveled too. So it's like not even um, a level fall. Maybe it does make it a little bit better because it will cushion you a little bit depending on how much give there is.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, dude. I'm struggling right now. Like my allergies have been killing me. I'm like trying to like breathe and talk at the same time.
It's that fucking time of year, dude.
It's that time of season in Sacramento where it sucks to talk long winded
Mm-hmm.
because,
Mm-hmm.
dude, I am breathing through my mouth because I can't breathe through my nose.
I think my kid's got tree allergies because he started like fucking sneezing and coughing the other day, and it's like, oh fuck. I get grass allergies, which are fucked up here, but they come later. Um, yeah, so I a couple things that I just wanted to hit up. The the use of special effects and her being a special effects artist at the end was pretty clever, with her pretending to go out and get shot.
Yeah, I wonder how they organized that. Did she write that shit all down to the person? Like, hey, we're gonna do this like elaborate plan. Let me go put on this one gunshot vest, and hopefully they don't check to see if I'm actually dead.
I mean, there was a lot of like hope in that fucking thing because
That plan, yeah.
yeah, Larson was not the bad Russian guy, by the way. He was the Russian detective. I figured that out now that I've said it enough times.
Larson is the detective that's supposed to play uh like a double agent
Yeah,
type
yeah,
situation.
and it's yeah, exactly. And so like they got really lucky. Like him knowing that the Reaper would then ask him to do the shots is the only thing that saved her. Because like, what if they're like, nah, just start blasting everybody else? She's dead.
Yeah, like like what if it's not him taking the shots? It's the other people who see her,
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
Reaper's
no,
like,
she'd be out.
"Should we done?"
More than done,
That
man. She would be horse meat. Horse meat. That doesn't make. Don't quote me on that.
she would
Yeah.
have been murked for sure, and she was really placing our bets on fortunate luck because,
Mm-hmm.
dude, they just said, "Oh, we see that she got shot. We're out of here. We're done. Business
Right.
is
No one stopped to turn around. I mean, this is good news because people do that in horror movies all the time for bad guys, is they don't finish the job. Right. So they did
yeah,
it for a good guy this time. He's like the Reaper's like, I saw my live action snuff. I'm out of here. Um, it also set up that really good fake out where Andy accidentally hits the button again, and everyone thinks that Billy got shot by another random person.
and that does that lead to the explosion?
That's like at the end, like right
Okay,
after she gets up and they're like all happy. They're like, "We did it! We've won! We've beat everyone!" And then it looks like she gets shot by someone from off screen. Like the final. Here's a laugh for you moment.
dude, that was funny too. Watching him like get launched, and he tried to like jump out of the car.
Dude, and it just fucking rolls credits. It's like jumps out of the car, gets launched, over.
Yeah, like you see the burning body, and it's just like okay, because it's funny too. Because in the trailer, that's in the trailer. They literally showed the end of the movie in the trailer.
Oh man, and that's pretty funny. So let's see. Yeah, so it's I thought the hair. So here's what I wrote down about the hair dryer death. I just want to read it because this will take us a little bit back. I said hair dryer death was hype.
Her
I was
driving
stoked when
death
it
was
happened.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I was like,
Quite funny. I wouldn't say it's cool. It was funny for me.
yeah, I thought it was cool. The effects were pretty funny, but I thought like the fight that led up to it and how she looked like she was about to get the shit kicked out of her, and then she turned it around on him. I thought that was pretty exciting. Um, The knife to unlock the door, by the way, is a real thing, and I know that because I have to do it with my kids' locked doors when they lock doors here. All my
Uh-huh.
doors unlock with a butter knife.
Yeah, I've had to do that with certain things too. You
Yeah.
getting locked out. Um, what was I say? The rug pull scene is so ridiculous, dude. Like that's such cinematic luck because, dude, where else were that work? Where the person who's supposed to be watching both, like one hostage, uh, one officer is watching the guy who's about to get shot in the head, Andy, and then the other one should be watching the woman, which she's not. And even if she's not, like her motions would have triggered one of the gunsmen to do something. Like it's so ridiculous. Like that is so improbable. Like that's just for me. It just felt like lazy writing. Like oh, we're just gonna let this happen. We're just gonna let them get away with this. And him getting headshot 360 no scope from the other guy who got tripped up is
There's
it really
nothing
annoyed me, man. Really did.
there's nothing that you can say than just pure luck. Which I thought about this too. I was like, are the people in this movie, do they have really good luck or do they have really bad luck? I'm like having kind of a hard time parsing out between that because on one hand they have really good luck that they keep getting away with this. On the other hand, they have really bad luck that they keep getting put in these situations over and over again.
Yeah, I think it's Billy. Billy's kind of like I'm not trying to like be mean to her, but she's kind of dumb for one, opening the door when her sister's telling like, dude, it's 1 a.m. Like who the like there's no reason anyone would be knocking on your door.
No, and there was no
Well,
reason anyone would be knocking on her. That was stupid.
yeah. And it's just to move the plot forward, and that's the kind of lazy story writing that doesn't really fly by me, man. Like that shit's annoying to watch, and just
Well, I mean, but
like,
think about this, okay? Because like if she hadn't opened the door, do you think they would have just let her go?
no, they would have just like tried to do what they were already doing, which was just like uh screwing off the door hinge.
So they saved you like 30 seconds of time in the film.
It's just they're trying to create suspense when suspense doesn't need to be added. Like you could easily just kind of like keep banging on the door and like because the element of surprise is no longer there. So what are you expecting other than the fact that you think she is as dumb as you like the people the goons probably think she maybe is dumb enough to open up the door and she kind of was. So
Hmm.
maybe that was their hope instead of having to go through the effort of trying to unscrew the lock. But now that she had closed the door, now we got to go to Plan B and now unscrew the lock. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. I mean, I don't know. It's hard because like the question is like, was she naive? What was up? And I don't have a good answer for it. So
Yeah,
I also agree that it was silly. It was like, why would you ever open this door? What in God's name would make you open this door? My only potential thing I could say is that I don't understand the '90s because I won't open my door to anyone I don't know now. Maybe in the '90s it was like
exactly.
you just open your door to everyone.
It's too scary out there. Maybe it wasn't as scary then, but
Oh man, it can be someone I know sometimes, and I won't open the door. I'll be like, neighbor, no, thank you. I don't need this
it's 1
conversation.
a.m. again. It's just like there's no point. But yeah, that part irked me. Again, there's a
Um,
lot of things that irked me in this movie.
but okay. Well, what about when the sister beat the shit out of Larson when she thought that like her sister, he killed her sister. It's like Karen, sister's name, thinks that Larson killed Billy, and she beats the shit out of him.
Yeah, and like that was ridiculous too because like Larson's all he has to do, like everyone just kept saying like, "Give me a second to explain." Like maybe she just got tired of hearing that and like she just went like she saw red because she saw her sister die, which is reasonable. But like all he had to do was kind of like hold her back. Like He was getting his ass beat for no reason. And I guess she even said it like, "Hey, maybe next time hit me back."
Yeah, she did. She's like, next time stop me a little bit or something. I think maybe
Yeah,
hit me
because
back
he
was
was getting his
exactly it. Yeah.
ass beat for no reason. Like, dude, literally, let me. All he did was open up the door, he'd be like, "Go check on her. She's actually alive." Like, this movie. No, it kind of that ending kind of reminded me of the beginning of just like dumb overacting. That felt like an overreaction, rightfully so, because she just saw her sister die. I understand like the reaction. It just on screen it did not give me that reaction. I'm looking at this like this is dumb. This is like overacting for me. This is like you're trying to sell the scene and you're not. For me personally, like this scene was not being sold. Like this looks cringy.
Yeah, I mean, the way I saw it when I saw it is that like Karen saw his sister die. She starts beating the shit out of him, and like he says, "Let me explain." She doesn't let him explain, and he's not going to hit her because he also understands why she's beating the shit out of him. So she's like, "Oh
Sure,
fuck,
sure.
okay." And then she does say that, "Why don't you just hit me back next time?" And he just goes, "Oh." Um, Speaking of which, there's something. This is side note completely. Larson looked like he could be Jude Law's dad.
You might be. No, I didn't get that.
He looks like it to me for some reason. I kept seeing him like this guy is like Jude Law from the fucking 60s. Because I think I don't know.
Have you
Um,
seen Jude Law recently in a movie? I don't. I can't remember.
Jude Law I think had like a nose job or something because he looked very different all of a sudden to me last time I saw him.
Oh, that's unfortunate. But if you
Yeah,
want, do your thing, dude.
I,
Billy spitting on Larson
yeah.
seemed like an overreaction too. There's just like a lot of overreactions. But
I
maybe
mean,
was that part of the act? Like, was the other guy not part of it? The guy who was like, or he wasn't, huh?
hmm,
The guy who he hit in the head with the gun. He
no,
was
yeah, he
actually
wasn't
part of
in it.
Reaper's crew, right?
Right, he was part of the Reaper's crew, and he actually knew that the car was going to blow up. So, like, I think that's how they figured out the car was going to blow up was looking at his face, and then
Yeah,
the intense 3-part zoom in.
yeah, because he's like, oh shit, I'm about to die.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to die in this car. I planted the bomb in this car myself, and now I'm gonna die from it. That's
The
because we
twist
don't
of fate.
know, but that's me piecing together the ending.
Yeah,
Like,
and it
oh
had
shit,
to be
yeah,
that
twist
way
of
because
fate.
otherwise, how would he know, right? Like, there's no other way.
Exactly, exactly.
Um, yeah, I mean, so that's I don't have a lot more.
Yeah.
Um,
Other than that, Billy's sister Karen has like an arm like Peyton Manning with her accuracy. She was able to
that's
knock the
true.
gun out of
That's
the
true.
hand perfectly. One throw.
Um, yeah, Karen was like a secret badass, but if if her husband wouldn't have held her back the whole time, she probably could have just solved this whole thing in the beginning.
He looked like the guy from Boy Meets World.
Oh, okay, I thought the same fucking thing too. I was like,
Fred
he's
Savage,
Corey, right?
Corey.
Yeah, Corey from Boy Meets World. I'm like,
I couldn't
he's just
stop seeing
him.
that kind of time.
I realized the timing didn't add up at all, but that must have been a really popular hairstyle because they look the exact fucking same. And this guy's way older than
It's
Corey, so
it's this era's is that era's broccoli.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like if you were mid 20s to 12 during that time frame, you could rock this haircut and get away with it, and you'd be hella cool.
yeah, for sure.
Because yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, during the beginning when I first saw him a few times, I was like, could it be him? And I'm like, no, this doesn't make sense with the timing. But like, if it almost maybe his older brother. I don't know. I'm just gonna assume everyone in this is related to someone else that is almost certainly incorrect.
But yeah, I don't have much else.
He was in a movie called The Monsters. There's a monster behind you. Just for anyone who wants to know that. I don't know anything about that. Okay, so I'll go ahead. Um, Hit up what I got here. So, personally, I thought that I liked the movie pretty well. I thought it was pretty clever in a lot of the ways. The story, while requiring disbelief, also had some more of the unique functions for a thriller from this time frame. The acting, and this is like divorcing it a little bit from the choices of the director, but the acting I thought was pretty well done. I didn't feel anyone slip up on their acting throughout. The biggest issue was that the Reaper to me did not sound like a Russian dude. The cinematography, I really liked the techniques and the shots and the angles, but as I talked about earlier, they needed colors in this film. They really needed colors in this film. It was just too beige the whole way throughout. Pacing and editing, this one came in at I think like an hour and 31 minutes or something like that. Um, hour 35 minutes, and I think it earned that hour 35 minutes. It felt pretty strong. And the music, I hate it. So if you put it all together in the grab bag, it comes up to a 6.5.
Okay.
So it's so solid. I'm not gonna say it's like a great film, but I'm not really like mad at seeing it. I think it was pretty unique within the thriller genre, especially when you consider all the other thrillers in the '90s were just about like women getting murdered somewhere random. I guess this one's still about a woman getting murdered, but it's in Russia, so you got something there.
So, um, that was your review.
Yeah,
Do you have anything
yeah.
else to add? All right,
Nope.
I'll go ahead and move on to my take on the film. And again, take my review with a grain of salt. This is a first take review on the film. I've only watched it once. And I'll probably only watch it once. So, there's that because I, unlike my co host, did not find this film all that entertaining for myself. I did like that it had not a long run time, which is greatly appreciated because I didn't want to sit with this too much longer. And it doesn't overstay its welcome. I did write a note at some point that said like, oh, if they would have just found out where the woman who got stabbed in the beginning, um, that they would have just asked for her and where she was in the first 50 minutes, the movie would have been over. But you know, that's not how a movie works. That's not how this movie turned out. And if they would have just ended it there, I probably would have been even more disappointed because I would have missed out on some pretty funny scenes at times. Again, the shower scene with the bathtub and him falling in the way he did, and then her turning on the hair dryer and throwing it in the bathwater and watching that guy get electrocuted, and you see the Raiden styling electrocution surging through this person's body. That was funny. I'm not gonna lie, I laughed at that, and I laughed at the end where the car exploded and the guy does a lazy attempt of trying to escape the car, and he barrel rolls out. it it makes for a funny ending to a movie. Uh, Very short and cut ending at that explosion though. Like it's the way this movie ends is so unusual. It kind of reminds me of Time Bandits, of just like it is cutting to credits and like giving you almost no more explanation. But I guess what else could you say that about that moment other than you know they move on from their life. The people who experience that are just gonna go back to America. Who knows? That aside, the good parts were that it had funny bits. The bad parts was for me the dialogue and acting and story was weak. Kind of also what Nick was saying, like just there just needed to be more on screen color or something on screen that help gain your attention because this movie just kind of for me moved slow and the things on screen weren't very popping and so um, the drama from a drama and thrill aspect I'm giving this like a 2 out of 10 for me. I didn't get that experience. I didn't get thrilled or I didn't really follow the drama and the story. Like it did not captivate me. the horror aspect, there was loud noises, and I felt like they were trying to do like jump scares with those loud noises. But beyond that, there wasn't a whole lot of scariness going on screen. The face acting was pretty good when they were showing some scary moments. With like one specifically during the whole initial murder of the snuff film, and seeing Billy's face kind of be like squeamish, and from what she's seen in person, like I kind of felt her energy on and her emotions from her face. It kind of it did a really good job with that part at least. But as far as horror goes, I wasn't there was no real horror aspect from my point of view. So there's that, and I think that this is just me, but the comedy was decent. Like again, I don't. He's Nick said it was a dark comedy, but I don't think they probably marketed this movie to be that. So I'm giving the comedy part like a 3 out of 10. And overall, um, this movie is just not for me, and I don't plan on rewatching it. But if it comes up, who knows? I might check it out again. But beyond that, I'm landing on a firm 4 out of 10 on this film.
Okay, so there we have that. All right, so our next film is going to be a little bit of a unique situation. So, Andrew, why don't you fill the people in on what's going on a little bit?
Okay, yeah. Hey, listeners. Just quickly giving you an update. I have a very busy April, so thank you for being supportive and listening to us. And we're gonna try to stay on schedule. Just not with me these next couple of podcasts, just because of my scheduling and what I have on my plate right now. So Nick is being very flexible, and I'm thankful that our uh, our guest next time is willing to share their time and hop on the podcast during my absence. And I'll let Nick kind of go from there on who our guest will be on the pod.
Yeah, so for the next two pods, Janice, my partner, who you've probably heard me talk about in this, that I watch movies with, so that works. She's willing to jump in on this thing and do it. She's also got a lot of different takes than what I do, which is what I think is pretty useful. Is two different viewpoints. Um, yeah, so she'll join in, and I'm letting her choose this next movie that we're watching. Even so, you'll see her on here. She's chosen for us a movie that we have talked about very very briefly on this podcast prior. Companion. So that came out earlier this year. It comes out on Blu-ray on April 1st, and I assume on probably some streaming site at that point. And that is directed by Drew Hancock. Again, so this is like likely the next two pods. It'll be me and Janice running through them. Yeah, you've heard her opinion through me. Now you get to hear it through her. Um,
Perfect.
which is it's the better way to hear it, really. Um, good luck with what you gotta do, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. And thank you again, listeners, for tuning in and being with us.
Mm-hmm. That said, we don't have a diskette.
Stay tuned.
Thank you for listening to Additional Crew Film Review. If you like this content, please check out our other episodes, and otherwise, please subscribe, give us a good rating. All these things help us to be seen a little bit more. We do have a letterboxed name is Additional Crew Film Review.